This is a driving review of the all-new BMW 1 Series, here as the M135, and everything you need to know about base model, and here the top sporty model with Thomas and Autogefühl in 4K, full screen, full length. Let's go with, I said all new generation, and there's a reason for that. They even changed the internal code. Some say, well, maybe it hasn't changed too much visually or something. Yes, visually it's rather an evolution. However, they changed so many parts with this vehicle. Actually, only the doors remained the same from the predecessor to now, and the wheelbase. Everything else, talk to the engineer about that, everything else has been changed. And that's why I think it's also justified to call it an all-new generation. But what exactly have they changed? First of all, the front grille. It's wider in all versions, but here especially in the M135, it is with this horizontal stress here. So this one gets the M Sportback, of course, as standard. M logo, and option you can also get here the illuminated front double kidney. We also have it right here. It's a very spectacular effect, of course, even more so at night. Then here the M Sport models with the pack, or if you have the true M performance model, has the black lower contrast and new headlamps. Optional then matrix LED. These are also the ones you see right here. And Leah, how was the color called? It's like the Signal Green. She just has, you know, she can remember things better. So always great to have her. Thank you so much. Not only for filming. So Signal Green is this very color, and yeah, it is a true Signal Green color. This like a blows your eyes away, literally. Really interesting. But I mean, why not go with a sporty version with something really more colorful? You maybe heard me saying, by the way, M135, and I did not say I, because they now skipped the I for the petrol engines, and the reason for that is because their electric models are called, you know, i5, i7, and so on. And then they thought, yeah, it's maybe a little bit confusing when the petrols are also called I, so the petrols will then just be called the numbers, and that's basically it. I think, yeah, we have to get used to it, but then again, you can also understand this naming decision, I think. Wheels, first of all, 17, 18, 19 inch are the biggest ones, and these are also the M Performance brake. You see how large the brake discs are there in the front. So looking forward to the brake performance of that one. Yeah, they are also calling for the brake performance already. And then said the wheelbase remained the same. Length just like really slightly increased. It's more about the overhangs and so on. And this is 4 meters 36 or 172 inches. So compact dimension. This is their compact hot hatch. And we have the M Sport Package Pro. That means black caps here also for the side mirrors. And these are also these M mirrors. They are like curved in here for design reasons. But I already can tell you, I have the experience from all the other vehicles with these mirrors here from the M vehicles and performance models, true top M models. It's a bad idea. It looks great, but it does create wind turbulences you hear at higher speeds. And even I recently drove an i7 M7, is it M70, I think. Is it M60 or M70 with the i7? I think even M70 they call it. And one of the most silent cars they have. And at high speeds, there's one thing you hear, the side mirrors. Bad idea. So I would rather go not so sporty design, but lower in the wind noise. Yeah, but of course more driving impressions are to follow very soon. Rear, also redesigned rear lamps. Reminds me of the new BMW X2 actually. That also looks similar than the big M135 lettering here without the I, obviously. With the new 1 Series, the case is that all exhausts are gone, except when you have the M135i. These are then the visible exhaust. With the M Sport Package Pro, they also have the dark tips around. Looks pretty cool. And I think that's a good choice because, you know, the Autogefühl Fake Exhaust Police, you can also buy t-shirts from that in our shop. The Autogefühl Fake Exhaust Police was invented by us, and they have been working for you to get rid of fake exhaust in the automotive industry with a lot of success meanwhile, actually. So because, you know, a lot of manufacturers had these fake exhaust tips, or still have, and it's sometimes just a little bit pathetic when you have like a black plastic ground pretending to be such an exhaust. And so BMW said, we want to have like an honest, clean and simple design also with the exhaust now. So we either do not show the exhaust at all with base models, then the exhaust is just underneath, but then there's also no fake graphic and so on. Or if it's a performance model, then they do show the exhaust, and I think that's also overall a good decision. Turning indicator check here in the rear, and this pulsing function also looks quite cool, doesn't it? And towards the front, ooh, what a shot by Leah, way to go. In the front, the turning indicators here in the vertical way, and once again in this pulsing heartbeat style. Under the hood, you either get a 2-liter 4-cylinder diesel. On the petrol side, there's an entry-level 1.5-liter 3-cylinder petrol engine. You might say a 3-cylinder in the BMW. Yeah, and I can share your concern. Yes, it's a small vehicle. The engines are not bad, but then again, yeah, I think you might want to go for a 2-liter 4-cylinder if you want some performance. Maybe some don't care. That's fine enough. If you don't care about performance, rather use it in the city and so on, fine, you know. But when you're more car enthusiast and also expect some power, then you can also get a 2-liter 4-cylinder petrol engine in different horsepower specs. And this one here is the top spec of it. More listed in the comment and also in the video description. Here the M135i, here then with 300 horsepower in the EU. The US spec is with 317 horsepower, and the acceleration figure 4.9 seconds to 100 kilometers an hour or 4.7 seconds to 60 miles an hour. And their compact platform is a front-wheel based platform. So you either have front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Here the M Performance model is an all-wheel drive version. That means in front plus rear on demand. So yes, it will not be rear-wheel biased, but in the front you also have then a differential lock with this one, for example. So yeah, we'll find out in the driving part how this one behaves. And this very vehicle is also equipped with an M technology pack. And this one also adds different measures to strengthen, stiffen the vehicle and so on to make it even sportier. Yeah, it's all going in the direction that we just have our smartphones and with the vehicle app on. It has also advantages. For example, here for my paranoia, I can always see if the vehicle is open or closed. Here at the moment it's open, but do you know that actually? Do you also have that? Yeah, Leah is always making fun of me because when we leave the vehicle and I close the vehicle and we're just like away like 5 meters, like, wait a minute, did I really close the car? Did I really close? And he said, yeah, you did close the car. But are you really sure? I'm not sure. I have to go back and check, you know. And then it's really good with the vehicle app. I can just check my smartphone and yeah, it's closed or it's open. I was right, you know. That's why, by the way, I also always configure the vehicle in a way that the mirrors fold in, because then when I'm walking away, the mirrors fold in while locking. The mirrors are folded in, so it's therefore locked. You know, yeah, that's my personal paranoia. Yeah, or the honker thing. Not this honker thing, the honk thing. Yeah, great day. So let's continue with the vehicle. It's like these, you know, like these small things that fall off the trees and sometimes just stick to the vehicle.
I don't know.
Door close. I'm not sure from which plan it is. I don't know. But let's take the door here. Closing sound. It's actually quite decent. Also interesting about here the one stamped in here, like there, and then how it's cut out here from the glass. It's a beautiful job. Then inside of the doors, top part here is somewhat soft, I would say. But also nicely built here. This is a little bit softer than for the elbow. Contour stitching, optional Harman Kardon sound system. Just the door pockets in the lower part, they are hard plastic, not covered. M entry badge, in this case with the M Sport pack. Then you also have the M Sport steering wheel, stitches on the inside, a little bit different form. The base steering wheel, by the way, is now also animal-free material, but it's also a high grade, feels just like the same. So the feeling is the same and also the durability, just different stylings and different material. And then here the seats. So these are the M Sport seats with integrated head restraint. These are the top spec seats, so to speak. And then there would be a base sport seat, also with accentuated shoulders, but not with integrated head restraint. And then a base seat, like a standard entry-level seat, which has even less accentuations at the shoulders. And you get fabric as base, then you get Econeer fabric with recycling share, and that can also be recycled later on in the sport seat. Or the Veganza high-grade leatherette with perforation, and this you can wipe clean easy, and it's also great in comfort. Probably, yeah, is like the most sophisticated option, I would say, and also a mix of Alcantara and some leatherette like we have here on this seat. Is also available for the normal sport seat. Kind of complicated, this structure, but I hope you get it. Otherwise you can scroll back. Leah walks around the vehicle. One more look from the outside with its green color. So there's the door. I'm 1m89, 6'2", and that leaves me some headroom here. There we go, no problem. And it doesn't feel small on the interior in the front, at least. Steering wheel here, up and down, in and out, smooth process. Here in the M135 I also have these massive stalks here for the shifting levers. That's actually pretty cool. And interesting details here also in the interior. So on this dashboard here, these contour stitches here, M colors, they are actually hand knit. Very interesting, isn't it? And also this, very thin aluminum piece. This is actually cut out with a special three-dimensional cutting out technology. So every single piece.
A 3D printer.
See, no, I think it was a 3D like cutter, like a cutter,
okay.
So and it's actually every single piece is done individually there. So so a lot of effort actually to do that. And underneath here, look at that. There is the glove box and the button is hidden underneath there. So interesting placement for that. Yeah, really small, but at least it's also dampened here. In the M Sport Pack, you also have these M colors here, for example, as the ambient lighting. You can even better see them, of course, at night, but that's a nice idea. And then the middle console here, the cup holders, I don't like them because they are not adaptive. So smaller bottles will just fly around. Smartphone is cooled here also with the inductive charging pad. That's good. Otherwise, there's No, I didn't even see that. You could better see it with the camera actually. Cubby hole there. USB-C chargers. Then the shifting levers integrated right here. This is the mode selector here for the driving modes. But I think not the most practical thing to do. I have to click here once again. So doing that while driving is too hard, I feel. Still a manual volume jog. Other than that, everything else almost went in the screen. But then here, well attached. Some more space underneath. There we go. And this cockpit is now almost all digitalized. You have this curved screen in front of you. Consists of two individual monitors. Right side then, for example, you can control the temperature and so on. Left side, digital instruments. This you can control then here from the steering wheel. And this is the driver POV right here. And you can see real buttons on the steering wheel. I really like that. Also left side then for the cruise control. And the digital instruments. See here this screensaver like. Then when you turn on the vehicle, brum brum. This is a sound actuator, which is quite cool sound. Let's activate sport mode. There we go. Brum brum. Yeah, and you can also. It sounds better in the inside than the outside. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you can pick different stylings, and then also is the head-up display. And then here, this is the curve ahead view, and this shows you actually then in the head-up display some recommendations of how sharp the next corner will be and so on. Here the infotainment system, is with the temperature here. Yeah, that's the thing I actually hate most with the new system with BMW. I like to have physical interface. It works reliable, this system. That's not the problem. And there are no software issues and so on. But it's just that the placement here is not that practical as you would have a haptical user interface. But that is the thing all over the industry. And then you have a lot of apps. Most of the time I check like live vehicle apps because then you have the consumption data and so on. This is here with doing launch controls and stuff. And then media, telephone, some hotkeys on the left side and the car internal GPS, of course, which is doing also its job. But most of the time we do the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto connection, of course, anyway. Rear seats, if we can talk about that, let's soon take a look at that. Here the inside of the doors is also nice with the leatherette here. Here also somewhat soft touch with nice structure. Just hardback again in the lower part. Yeah, and then we have these sport seats with the integrated head restraints, and you already see that they are very voluminous. And it's not that the 1 Series would have a lot of legroom in the rear anyways, but when you go for these seats here, then there's hardly any legroom left if there is a tall driver in the front. Who would be me in this case? Yes, there's a recess here, but you see I can't really fit in here in the back then. I'm behind a tall driver. Again, if it is with the base seat or the normal sport seat, you would have more space there. We've seen it in our studio episode. Headroom-wise, it exactly fits, but barely. So there's really not much space on the rear bench. It's, I would say, rather for children. And also then here with Isofix, for example. Yeah, not only children, of course, and also people who are not as tall as me. Yeah, not everyone who is not as tall as me is a child, of course. Yeah, just to mention that. Then here, cup holes, these have these rubber lips. Then you can also fold this one down, and this would then be the ski hatch. And interesting, I always find this here pretty cute. Here, this middle head restraint. There we go. You can fold it up. I recently, by the way, received an interesting hate comment. You know, there are always people who rather spend time with hate than with love. That's sad always, but there was someone who said, like, complaining about that I call them head restraints and that you should rather call them headrests. You can say both. And head restraint is also a correct term. It's actually a correct automotive tech term that is used also by the manufacturers themselves. So both is correct. You can say headrest, but you could also say head restraint. And only because it's called head restraint doesn't mean that you get a restraining order or something like that. And then here we also have two USB-C chargers in the lower part. And since all-wheel drive is also ordered, you also have this middle hump, which is kind of accentuated. So most of the stuff here we found in the interior was good build quality. This one is also good build quality, for sure. Best build quality. But actually, Leah found also something that is not, let's say, the best build quality, and this is the sun visor. And it just doesn't feel right and fitting to the vehicle, also how it's attached, also when you touch it and so on. Yeah, really not the best. Trunk or boot, 380 liters. You lose 75 liters if you have a mild hybrid system. I'm going to show you why very soon. So here, cabin trolley also fits in vertically, that's no problem. And then we have a width of about 1 meter or 40 inches, and the length is some 75 centimeters, 30 inches. Here, this top cover, we can niche it here and then just pull towards us. Then we can also check out the height, which is at 76 centimeters or 26 inches. We can also fold the seats like this. This is also like a middle ski hatch. It will also be possible. There we go. And the total length into the seat as I would be driving is here 1 meters 43 or 56 inches. And here now, which is a cool thing, you can lift this cover up like this, and here it's also being kept like this. This is actually also a nice solution. And you can, for example, then stack things here, then you have even more height, and also it's secured against flying around. So this is a good feature, and you do not have that when you have a mild hybrid engine, because then this additional battery is stored there, so you lose that space then underneath, or there's like just like a very small space, but not that totally extensive space underneath. Launch control. Really quick. However, you also felt here the front wheel bias. We call it Stempeln in Germany, like a stamp. You put stamps, like tire stamps, on the road. So did lose a little bit of traction there in the front and was sending more to the rear, and then we get it going. So yes, on the one hand, this is like the disadvantage then of the front wheel biased all-wheel drive. You have so much power via the front axle then. On the other hand, we also have some, mixed conditions here today, also with some rainy roads and so on. And in that case, it's also in a way safer, because then the rear of the car cannot just go away. It is, in that respect, then actually really safer. Yeah. And what I also want to do is to test when we do the launch control, not in the S shifting mode, sport mode yes, but not S shifting mode, but the normal D shifting mode, and see if that's any difference. Interesting. So
maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Felt a little different. maybe a little bit less stamping. Of course, it depends on the individual asphalt and so on. But it is somewhat different. Now looking forward actually to the concise figure. So we have to check the time codes actually if there was a difference. This front wheel bias platform has its limits. A rear wheel driven car would have gotten on the one hand, like I said, sorry, a rear wheel biased overdrive, that's what I meant, can get better traction to the ground. However, then you have to say, especially here for these conditions, in that case then this platform is the safer way, because when I would have just a rear wheel driven car, then there would be such a high risk that the rear just breaks out, which is not the risk then here mainly. So in that kind of respect, you have to say, yes, we all like to drive rear-wheel biased vehicles, but here it is in that respect the safer way, so to speak. Of course, you can here always use the manual shifting pedals. Oh, the brakes have a very nice, fine feeling for it, I have to say. But you can also shift, or let the car shift in different ways. So as I once said here, manual is one way. Then you just pull the lever here in the lower part. Or what you can also do when you're in manual mode, and then hold one pedal and keep holding it, then it also switches back to that manual mode. And you can go to the S shifting mode. Then you also hear it. There's always a preload basically, so it's always 1 gear lower. Other than that, when you keep it in normal D driving mode, is rather shifting up earlier, and you can adjust it. The S shifting mode is not always, it always depends on the engines and so on, not always the best choice as for pure speed, as for how quick is it in acceleration. It's more when you have like changing situations, a lot of bends and corners, and there's going back and forth, acceleration, braking, then the RPM can be kept quite high. That is the main advantage for it. In pure acceleration, from engine to engine, it depends on which platform, but sometimes the normal D mode can be even better in acceleration. We did some tests with that, for that. It also has to do with the power curve of the engine and so on. So yeah, that's, as I said, mainly when you drive in a very dynamic way, then the S shifting mode is more fun, and that you don't lose RPM and so on. But here, even in the normal D mode, of course, it's always depending on the sport mode, which I've also put in. There here, even if I don't have the S shifting mode, we already have more power available. If I go to the normal personal mode, then it's definitely way calmer. The RPM are rather kept a little bit lower, better for efficiency, lower consumption, and so on. And the excess of the modes, I have to say, could be a little bit better. So you always have to like look down, search, this is the My mode, click it here, and then click the Sport mode, and then click Activate, because the ESC is being deactivated a little bit, or drawn back, not deactivated completely. So yeah, you see, it's not laid out that you do these switches very often. Let's take it that way. And now German Autobahn. Nice acceleration, and here at 140, 150 kilometers an hour, like 100 miles per hour, this is reasonably silent indeed. So considering this is the compact platform and we have like wind and rain and everything bad outside today, it's staying reasonably silent. I really have to say, I rather hear the sound actuator here. It feels really natural though, how the sound actuation is happening, so it doesn't sound so much fake or something. I think I did a good job with that, and the only thing we hear is now sound actuator, and here from the side mirrors, this is the only like wind turbulence we hear, as I told you earlier. I feel it's better here in the compact platform than in one of the bigger models, so I have to say that. And of course you can go to the My mode selection, go to the personal mode again, and it's more silent because the sound actuator is drawn back and so on. Then it's way more calm and relaxing. This whole vehicle is a pure driving machine. That's why I also like this compact platform in this sense here. When you do a lane change and so on, great feeling of the steering wheel. It's really better than in the BMW 3 Series here. There's no dead zone area right here. Then also it doesn't exaggerate to the side as for the steering input. So great steering feeling. This is how it should be, So the feeling of being a driving machine is here more in the 1 Series or in the 2 Series than it is in the 3 Series actually. That's a very curious finding, although I'm usually a fan of like a little bit larger cars, also because of my size. In smaller cars I usually don't sit that well, that comfortable. These sport seats are kind of stiff. As for the bolstering, we talked about that earlier, so I feel the normal sport seats will probably offer a little bit more comfort. But here they hold you tight, very good in the corners, and I just love to do individual things with this vehicle, be it like a lane change, or also even just hammer in the turning indicators. This just gives you such a great feedback when you put in the indicators, or also use the manual shifting pedals here. You don't hear them too much when you are in the personal and the D mode, but when you are in the sport mode, yeah, again switching it, looking down, my modes, then sport, and okay. You probably won't do that so often during driving unless you have a co-driver who can change the driving modes for you. Leon Notz. Yeah, no matter when you do, with which speed you do the lane change, it's always a lot of fun. And here then when you shift back yourself, also cracks and plops from that exhaust, that's a pretty cool feeling always. So with this facelift here, I also changed the suspension frequency adaptive dampening for this one here. So for the M Sport pack, all then of course included in the M135i. And what we can do here is, let's lower the window. Yeah, I mean with the rain you hear probably more rain noise than the exhaust. But I think the exhaust here, the note that's transported to the interior is actually quite cool. Also you can see more of the ambient lighting here, M colors. That's beautiful, right? Beautifully done here, also with a special 3-dimensional curved out aluminum piece. That's pretty cool, like, definitely. So gives me great atmosphere. Let's see how it changes then when I go to the personal mode. Yeah, M colors here. You can of course set different colors and so on, but it really looks cool when we are in this M mode, definitely. And then everything is more like red, sporty, accentuated, and so on. Yeah, I really like the styling they put on here for the M135i. Now it said M35i. Cut the I. The I is gone now because that's reserved for the electric models now. Yeah, sorry about that. That's interesting. First, rarely I see that now the motorway split here, the Autobahn split, and on the right 2 lanes is unlimited speed, and on the left lane there was limited speed. Interesting, right? I think first time I've seen it here. So we can accelerate out then. Once again, I'm in a D sport mode, but then D shifting. And for acceleration, it's absolutely fine. Just that the S mode always, puts the gear lower, sounds more spectacular. Good acceleration also to the higher speeds. Oh, it's good that the road gets a little bit drier now. And even here at higher speeds, the car feels so nice and light to handle. Recently, we've been testing, of course, more and more electric vehicles. They come with the heavy batteries. They have great performance and also, advantages in their own. But the disadvantage is always the weight. And here, this is a compact platform. You have a pure combustion engine here, the pure petrol engine. And the car just feels light in comparison to most other vehicles we are driving here today. And that just feels cool, especially when you go like in corners or into the lane changes and so on. You feel that you're not being pushed by the weight. It's really, really a lot of fun. So honestly, I have to say, from the most recent reviews, there's a new 5 Series behind us now, I see. From the most recent reviews, this one is one of the most fun cars we've been driving. How's it on the passenger?
Very good.
Good.
Yeah.
It gets the Leah stamp. Interesting, because that's to me is so crucial. We often have vehicles where Leah sits behind me and that is sometimes suspension, how the seats keep you tight, how light or how heavy the vehicle is. And that makes such a huge difference on how the passenger thinks like, I'm gonna throw over now, or think like, great, this is fun to drive. And so you're having fun today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When she's having fun, everything is all right. Everything is great. Yeah,
Happy wife, happy life.
Happy wife, happy life. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Could we see you in the picture there? Come on. There we are. Yay. Yeah, that's great stuff. So, and I mean, you might ask yourself at home, can I go for this vehicle? You get your partner, scroll to
Yes.
this time code then, and then everything is fine actually. And yeah, with this update here, I talked about the suspension, fine-tuned that one. I feel the suspension has been more comfortable now, more forgiving. Although these are 19-inch wheels, on the motorway it's all fine, great for the driving machine. And these frequency adaptive dampers, it means no active selection. When I go to the sport mode, it remains the same. Frequency adaptive dampening means depending on high amplitude or low amplitude of the shocks, then they adapt to it with hydraulic cushion. And this actually gives you more comfort when it's more like, for example, like really harsh impact, but more sportiness when there's like soft waves or something like that. So you have both of more contact, but at the same time more comfort. So good technology, yes, but not as good as adaptive, real active adaptive, of course. But still, to have it good here, good to have it in here in this compact platform. The base models do not have that. But then my suggestion is to balance out between sportiness and comfort with the wheel size. Here, 19-inch wheels, as I said, great for the motorway. Such a great feeling, good contact. I can put the biggest brakes on there, which have a nice brake feeling as well. But then again, when you want most comfort, stick to the smallest wheels. Because here, 19-inch wheels in that M135, when you're going through the city, potholes, all these Querfugen, listen and repeat, Querfugen. It's like when we talk in Germany about like something like is like, across the road, and there's maybe like from something, whatever, like a hidden line across the road or something, or a bump that goes across the road, something like that. Then you do feel it, and it even gets into your lower back. So when the road is bad, this will get very uncomfortable. So I cannot advise you to go for 19-inch wheels with this vehicle, although it drives here great now when the motorway is all even and so on. So if you search for a base 1 Series, go for the 17-inch wheels, get the best comfort, and live with that you don't have like the most spectacular visual part with your vehicle or something. This will be just fine, and if you want the best compromise between the visual part and the comfort, I think 18-inch is a nice choice here, like the sweet spot for the 1 Series. And the same also counts for the 2 Series. You're getting off the motorway and fantastic. Again, you don't need to be actually in sport mode here at the moment. I'm in sport shifting mode. So you can vary that how you like it, or just stay in the base mode. And sometimes when you pin down the throttle, then you get into the lower gears and so on. This is to me actually one of the driving machines at BMW, and this compact platform really helps with the cornering and so on. In this platform the engines are also with the transverse mount, and the big platforms offer other things and revised things and so on, but this one here drives so well left and right that you then, for example, also forgive other things, that hey, it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder, hey, it's not a revised all-wheel drive and so on. This is all fine as soon as you start driving this one and just enjoy the ride. This is really fantastic. Here then, by the way, the assistant systems. So you can set them here, left side of the steering wheel, left thumb. Mainly meant to be driven at the motorway, but I always try to also do it in other roads and see how it works. And here, you see here the car is being kept in the lane, pretty much centered, but without overcorrecting much, and that's a good sign. With this rework of this generation here, this model, also all the updates with the assistant systems, then you get different packages for that. That's the one thing with BMW. And what we love meanwhile about Tesla, by the way, they put all in there, almost everything. And here with the German manufacturers, they nowadays make more packages, less single options, but still there are always so many options. And when I say, okay, what you see here, this is optional, this is an option, this is an option. It has become a little bit better, yes, but still there's so much option that you always have to mention that you not get everything what you see just by base version. Here once again with the assistant systems, see how well the car is being kept here in the lane. Also no hectic, What's that? Something falling off the truck, right? Some piece. Interesting. But good that we didn't drive over that actually. Yeah. And I also have everything in the view here, in the head-up display, everything I see. So yeah, that's pretty cool. If you ask yourself, can you only have fun here in this M135 version? It's the same platform, also a base 1 Series will have the same base features. Here, this one, of course, is the most extreme version in a way, also with this M technology pack, that we have these additional measures to make the car a little bit sportier, and you do feel that. So, yeah, often we talk about an M2 or something as the ultimate driving machine by BMW. This one definitely belongs to that. Small, front-wheel drive, and I mean, it's a model which also offers a 3-cylinder, and you can all argue about that, and maybe you're also right. But this one here, especially in this version, just drives fantastic. Fuel economy, you can drive this vehicle like steady cruise control and so on. 107 liters on 100 kilometers, 34 mpg US, 41 mpg UK. That's like a good fuel economy. If you of course drive it like we have here today for testing purposes on the Autobahn and so on, then of course it gets way worse. But just to give you a realistic consumption, what would be possible when you drive civilized with a 1 Series 2-liter 4-cylinder. Pricing, it starts right above 30,000 euros. However, if you go for this one here, the M135, and then also add some more extras, like it is here, like it stands here now, you can easily double the price. That of course gets kinda hefty, doesn't it? To me, well, the one thing with the launch control, that it has like, you know, a little bit of traction loss in the front, that was not to my liking. So not my favorite launch control, but considering how often you use the launch control in everyday driving life, it's maybe not that important. What is important, that it has good acceleration, it has good performance, also in a way of a safety performance car, because that front wheel bias, which is on the one hand a flaw, is on the other hand also a safety thing, so to speak. And it handles so extremely well. It is a pure fun driving machine, just as the brand is promising, and this vehicle here is really fulfilling it. Normal base 1 Series version will of course also do it. They also still have a lot of driving fun, just that they have a little bit less performance, and of course here also 19-inch wheels and so on and so on. But then again, the big wheels also give you comfort losses, so I'd rather stick with smaller wheels. So my optimum comfort setup would be then no M Sport package, 17 or 18-inch wheels, and then the normal seats or the normal sport seats, because the M Sport seats with the integrated head restraint, they also are maybe not the best for long journey comfort. So this is the top-end sportiness, and the other setup would be then the top-end comfort, and you can pick something in between what you like. What you go for? Tell me what you think about the new 1 Series, and join us now for more competitor and BMW reviews.